What's up guys, it's KKaceh here. Finally have some time to make a discussion video, and welcome back to another Honkai Star Rail discussion video. And the last time we talked about what's next with Xianzhou's story because it feels like Xianzhou arc is far from finished. Those who are still hasn't seen the video, I suggest you do check them out. Maybe you can get one or two insights about what we can expect from the future of Xianzhou's story. Anyway, this time I just want to kind of pick your brain a little bit. As the title suggests, do you guys think right now the devs are not making use of the full potential of Honkai Star Rail universe? Honkai Star Rail is a space sci-fi fantasy game, which means they are free to make all kinds of planets, all kinds of life forms, any kinds of stories, and most importantly, all kinds of characters. And because of that, developers have the freedom to invent all kinds of new species to make the game feels more like a space journey filled with unknown life forms. Isn't that what space journey should be? At least that's what I would make. For me, what comes to mind when it talks about space fantasy, unique species from all kinds of genre comes to mind would be something like Nopon race from Xenoblade Chronicles, or the most famous one, Rocket Raccoon and Groot from Marvel. Those two are cool and very interesting characters. Maybe cool looking humanoid robots and cyborgs, which right now we kinda have in forms of Skrullum and Boothill to a certain extent, and maybe even Firefly. Other than that, they should have more scary looking aliens, like where you see in Guardians of the Galaxy if you watch Marvel movies. And maybe even go back to a planet that has some medieval settings, and we end up seeing some kind of vampires that live on the planet, which kind of similar to Star Ocean if you know the game. And of course, many more unknown creatures with unique designs. Heck, at this point it feels like Baldur's Gate has some very cool looking species of their own, like for example Lae'zel, a Githyanki, or even Karlach, a Thiefling. Those are very unique species and they look actually pretty cool. And I don't mind seeing Star Rail to have that kind of species, because in my opinion, we have way too many human characters for a space fantasy. So let's take a look what we currently have with Honkai Star Rail when it comes to species. We almost have over 60 playable characters at this point. So far, how many playable species do we have? For sure, we have human, and then we have the immortal Xianzhou natives, we have Foxian, and then Vidyadhara. So these three are from the Xianzhou Alliance. And then we have Halovian, which is from Penacony. And lastly, puppets, which kinda originally human, which I'm referring to Shui and Herta, by the way. So I don't know if you can classify them as species. So when it comes to it, all of these characters are too human-like with all human characteristics and behave like how human would. I think it will be very interesting to see more non-human characters in our playable rosters, like a Dragonoid or something with a dragon body, or we have a beast, like a werewolf or something like that, and they don't have human face. Maybe even Lizardman or Centaur, that half beast, half human. Even an undead would be pretty cool. If you watch Overlord anime, the main character is a skeleton, but his design is super cool. Other than that, maybe they can learn a thing or two from FGO, since FGO have so many non-human playable characters in the roster. That would really make the Star Rail universe seems to be more open and has so many unique cultures and life forms. In my opinion, Star Rail devs should expand their playable character model template, because if anything, it feels like the devs are pondering towards making characters that can sell rather than characters that makes the world more unique and immersive. It should not be impossible because Star Rail has so many enemy skeletons with different sizes, and it should be possible to use some of them as a playable character skeleton. That if we are talking from game design perspective. As of now, the only non-human character that has the potential to be playable with a ready in-game model is Skrullum, and he has been locked in NPC prison since version 1.1. And everyday marketing, me not seeing him and then realizing that his kit has been stolen over and over again really makes me sad. For those who don't know, the first time his kid was taken by Dr. Ratio, and now his kid is being taken by Rappa. Other than Scrollum, another potentially interesting playable character will be Ifrit, known as Duke Inferno. But he was killed by Acheron back in Penacony arc. The story was pretty cool, but such an interesting character killed off screen and we never actually met him in person, even though he tried to mess with us back in Herda Space Station. He would have been a very amazing villain, honestly speaking. And on top of that, he could have been such a nice breath of fresh air in the character roster if he was designed to be playable. Not to mention, he's an antagonist too, so making an antagonist playable would be pretty amazing in my opinion. You know, like in Genshin, making Signora playable would make people lose their mind. And lastly, another potential character that was supposed to be non-human, I think, was Sam. A character that I thought would be a full Gundam. He's just a robot like Inteleron, like Scrollum, but from different planet. But Sam ended up having a pilot inside, which just makes me have a bit of mixed feeling. Not saying that I dislike Firefly or anything, because I really think that Glamoth lore is actually freaking amazing and Firefly is such a sweetheart. But having a full robot character will have made the Star Rail universe to be a bit more interesting with a diverse life form outside just the Inteleron. Gotta give credit though, in Penacony we were introduced to so many different species, but I think it would be nicer if we actually able to have some of those species to become playable. For example, the Pepeshi. They're tiny characters, and I think having a Pepeshi character to be playable would be pretty nice. However, if I want to talk about my personal desire, personally I would love to see hanunue species to be made playable one day, as having a wolf character is just a very cool idea for me personally. I know that all of these non-human characters can be very difficult to sell to the majority of the players, which is why making a good trailer will be the key to sell them, and we know that Star Rail trailers have been really good recently. They need to make these characters either really cool, charismatic, or endearing. That way, people will actually be interested to pull for these characters. Make them have really nice backstory or something like that, or with the Myriad Celestia trailer. So why do I want to have hanunue species? Because after seeing Zenless Zero having a couple of non-human characters, it makes me think that Hoyoverse might be able to pull it off for their other games like Genshin and especially my favorite Honkai Star Rail. And I really applaud Zenless Zone Zero actually trying making multiple characters with different character model and making unique non-human characters that actually looks pretty nice. From the bear, Ben Bigger, of course the dog man, Lycon, and then the blue lady, Sokaku, and also of course the cyborg Billy the Kid. They are such a nice character designs and such a breath of fresh air into the Hoyoverse games in my opinion. With how miHoYo being a multi-billion company, not pumping out many different character skeletons and being creative with their character design kinda makes people speculate whether they have some technical limitation in character designs or they're just playing it safe for the sake of constant safe revenue since their current business model is working just fine. It's like, why should you fix something that is not broken, right? Just sell all kinds of hot waifu and hot husbando. But for me, as someone who really enjoys video games, as it is more about than just cool and pretty characters, we have plenty of that. I think it is about time that they should focus more on making the game a bit more immersive. So for me personally, it comes across that they sacrifice artistic approach for the sake of a good amount of money. But if they're concerned that this character won't sell, just make them a 4-star characters and make their gameplay or animation to be at least interesting. That way, they won't suffer much from revenue side. Because once again, in video games, we can't just have all cool and pretty looking characters with a soft backstory. It is fine to have some characters as a comic relief with a normal background lore. And currently, in Honkai Star Rail, I think only few of them are like that, which the one that I can think of is Asta and Arlan. And then the most notable one that actually have a lot of presence is actually Sushang. As she doesn't have a complicated background, she's always there to help us out. Such a nice character, you know? And compared to so many other casts, it feels like the other casts have so many complicated backgrounds and they're just so sad. And whenever I see Sushang around, it just puts a smile on my face because she's such a nice and normal character compared to the rest of the cast of Honkai Star Rail. So basically what I'm saying is that some of these non-human characters can be just like her, just normal people that is just doing their job and living their life with a little bit of battle prowess, and they can become a little bit special because they end up interacting with the main cast. Well, that's all I want to yap about regarding the potential. I just want to make it clear so people don't twist my words. I do think what Star Rail have now is pretty good, quite immersive and engaging, but I do think that it can still be improved even further, knowing that Star Rail as a live service game still has a long journey ahead of them when it comes to finishing their stories, which is why the inclusion of many unique species will really elevate the whole story of Honkai Star Rail in my opinion. Before we end this discussion, I kind of want to try and analyze if the lack of species diversity is it caused by game design limitation or more of a design choice. So here's my thought. As a live service game, I don't know how many % of the revenue that they make goes back to development, like for example, hiring more people to make more content for one patch, or spending more budget to help them with better equipment. I have no information regarding that, but at the very least we have noticed the improvement in some part of the game. For example, character animations are so much flashier and cooler. There's so much more special effects being used everywhere. The main and event story is so much better written. It's more engaging, and there are more character depths. Like the recent War Dance event, for example, the Lucca story was great. And of course, using more CG art to enhance the storytelling, great decision ever. The new areas to explore are so much more detailed, engaging, and interesting. So we can see that some of the budgets are being used on this improvement. That I can say, at least the money that we spend in this game is poured back into making the game better, as we can see the results in game themselves. But honestly speaking, I think they could do better knowing how much revenue they make every month. It feels like the amount of content we have is quite similar in every updates. I'm not talking about quality, but quantity. Like for example, towards the end of the second half of the patch, it tends to be just dead. There's no big events and very minor events and mostly just farming. I think that could be improved by hiring more people to actually work on some fun events or maybe even make a reruns of events. That's fine. At least the players are still engaged actively with the games instead of just farming for a few minutes and turn off. But with new content, at least they need to use their brain and be engaged with the game a bit more. Doesn't have to make it too much content because not everyone have the time to finish all the content, but I think the content is still not enough at this moment. My favorite solution would be, for this particular case, if each major update, meaning version 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 and so on, we get 2 different planets or regions to explore. One big region / planet, like the Penakoni and the future Ampharos, and maybe they should add one small area or planet that is related to the existing place in the middle of the big major update. For example, currently we're at the version 2, so maybe add them somewhere in 2.4, 2.5, and make it maybe half of size of Penakoni. They should start to introduce other Shanju ships and actually visiting them, instead the characters from other ships just keep coming to Lofu. Or we can go to planet Blue that Hera space station orbits around, or even nearby planet close to Penakoni in the Asdana system. This way we might be introduced to a new species, and at the same time we are keeping the game fresh by introducing new planets to the players, and exploring a whole new planet is a lot more exciting than just exploring a new area in an existing planet. So to recap of my ideas is just that, okay, first we have one major area at the beginning of a major update. So for example, for 3.0, we're gonna have Ampharos, update them to 3.3 or 3.4, and then we can have a new planet that maybe consists of 3 to 5 different areas The size doesn't have to be as massive as Penacony, maybe half of the size. Let that be about 2 updates, and then after that, around version maybe 3.6 and so on, they can add new area on existing planet, maybe add new area in Belobog, add new area in Penacony, and so on and so on. Because once again, exploring a whole new region is so much more exciting. And it doesn't feel like a filler. Because, you know, there's some big content creator out there that just hates filler content and just call it dead, which I disagree. Filler content is a great opportunity to actually explore the lore more, especially the characters and also the region. Alright, that's all I want to say. Sorry, the structure is a bit messy, just me rambling. What are your thoughts regarding this topic? Do you also have a solution in mind? If you think this particular case needs to be addressed, do let me know in the comment section. Anyway, that's all I want to say. I still think that it's such a shame that Duke Inferno is not playable. Having a playable villain is always fun and interesting when it comes to the dynamic of team building. But hey, at least we're getting Sunday soon, and I hope his story will be good, one to show his redemption arc. And of course, I really hope that Hanunue race will become playable at some point in the future. Thanks for watching. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, do check out my previous video regarding Sanjo's story, and let me know what you think, what's going to happen in next Sanjo Fu. Until the next video, stay sharp gamers.
Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe!